Do you know someone who just doesn't post anything? Ever. They're everywhere in real life, but on social media, they're a ghost. You know that episode of Black Mirror where people are literally ranked by every social interaction they have online? I know it's science fiction, but look around. It's not that far off, is it? And there are people who, aware of this game, simply refuse to play. They didn't disappear from life, they just disappeared from the feed. Psychology has a name for this, and there's a very specific reason why this behavior exists. The most common belief about those who don't post on social media is simple and direct. This person is afraid. Afraid of judgment, afraid of exposure, afraid of not being interesting enough to appear. Common sense has built a very organized narrative around this. Those who don't appear, hide. Those who don't show, are ashamed. Those who don't share their life, don't trust themselves enough to do it. It's an almost automatic logic, one we absorb without realizing it, because it's everywhere. We've internalized the idea that visibility is synonymous with self-confidence, that digital presence is a reflection of emotional health, that those who are doing well in life show it, that those who are well with themselves have nothing to hide. And silence in this logic is always suspicious, always a symptom of something. It seems obvious, it even seems compassionate sometimes, as if concern for those who don't post were a form of care. But it's not. It is, most of the time, a projection. And it's no wonder this belief has become so deeply ingrained in us. We live in a time when digital presence has become proof of existence. If you don't appear, you almost don't exist, at least not in the form this era recognizes as valid, as real, as worthy of attention. Social networks have created an entire new social grammar, with implicit rules, rituals of visibility, hierarchies of engagement. And those who don't speak this language seem to be out of the game, displaced, resistant. We even use the right term without realizing it. These people are called invisible, as if absence of a post were absence of life. But why do we believe this so easily? Why has this narrative of fear stuck so well in the collective imagination? Because it's convenient. It organizes the world in a simple and comforting way. Those who appear are brave, those who disappear are afraid. Those who post are confident, those who stay quiet are hiding something. It's a clean division, easy to apply. And every time someone validates your post, a like, a comment, a heart emoji, this belief is reinforced a little more. The platform's logic teaches you, little by little and very efficiently, that exposure is rewarded, that appearing is worthwhile. The brain registers this as social approval, which is one of the most powerful stimuli that exist for our species. We are gregarious animals. Belonging matters. Being seen matters. Being recognized matters. So when someone deliberately chooses not to play this game, the human mind, trained by years of digital conditioning, interprets this behavior as a failure, as the absence of something essential, as an emotional deficit, and then judgment appears disguised as genuine concern. So-and-so doesn't post anything, are they okay? Or worse, more cruelly, said in a low voice among friends, she doesn't post because she has nothing interesting to show. Or even, he must just be antisocial. The intention might even be good, but the premise is completely mistaken. Here lies the hidden error that almost no one stops to examine. We've confused two radically different things, the need for approval and the capacity for connection. They are completely separate dimensions of the human psyche, and treating them as if they were the same thing is a mistake with real consequences. Someone can have a deeply connected life, rich in genuine bonds, full of presence and affection, and still feel absolutely no need to document it for an audience. Not because they're afraid to show it, not because they're hiding something, but because the experience itself is already whole. It's already enough. Dinner was good. The sunset was beautiful. The conversation lasted until dawn, and was one of the most honest of their life. And none of these moments need external witnesses to have truly existed. For some people, transforming experience into content is natural, even pleasurable. It's part of how they process and share the world. There's nothing wrong with that. But for others, this process creates a friction that isn't about insecurity. It's about something much more subtle and much deeper. The real psychological mechanism behind this behavior is what some researchers describe as a high sense of integrity between private identity and public expression. It sounds technical, but the concept is straightforward. Some people have a very clear, very conscious relationship between who they are and what they show. For them, the idea of performing a version of themselves for an audience they don't even really know creates a specific type of internal discomfort, a friction. It's not shame, it's not social anxiety, it's something more akin to an ethical refusal, an incompatibility between what is real and what a post can capture.
Think of it this way. When you post something, you are inevitably constructing a narrative about yourself. You choose the photo's angle, the caption, the filter, the right moment, what goes into the frame, and what stays out. You are editing your own life for external consumption. And for some people, this process is absolutely incompatible with how they relate to their own existence. Not because they think no one will like what they see, but because between what they truly are, the complexity, the contradiction, the depth, and what any post will manage to show, there's an enormous gap, a hole no filter can fill, and they prefer silence to a shallow version of themselves. There's yet another layer to this behavior, and it's even less discussed, even more ignored. Many of these people have a heightened sensitivity to what psychology describes as the energetic cost of social observation. In simpler terms, they feel, almost physically, the weight of being watched. The weight of knowing someone on the other side is evaluating, interpreting, forming an opinion about you from a split-second's glimpse. This isn't paranoia. It's not a disorder. It's a different and completely legitimate way of processing social presence. Some brains are more sensitive to this type of exposure, and that doesn't make them more fragile. It often makes them more precise about what they want and don't want to give to the world. These people aren't afraid of others' judgment in the anxious, paralyzing sense of the word. They simply did the math, and the return doesn't outweigh the cost. This isn't trauma, it's preference, choice, and identity. But there are invisible consequences for those who carry this behavior in a world that, by now, has equated visibility with personal value. And these consequences don't come from within, they come from outside, with a tiring consistency. The person who doesn't post begins to be perceived in ways they never chose and never authorized. They become mysterious, arrogant, antisocial, weird. They weren't invited to defend themselves, had no space to explain. They were simply judged by their absence. And this creates a cruel paradox. The same person who refuses to perform an identity on social media ends up having an entire identity attributed to them by others. They wanted authenticity. They wanted peace. They simply wanted to live without an audience. And they got a label they didn't ask for, constructed by people who barely know them. There's another consequence that's even more subtle, operating in daily life in ways we rarely name. In work environments, social groups, even romantic relationships, digital absence begins to be interpreted as personal disinterest. "Why didn't you like my photo?" becomes a veiled accusation. "You didn't even see what I posted?" carries an emotional weight that shouldn't exist. Online silence begins to require offline justification. And then the person who just wanted to live in peace, without an audience, without performing, finds themselves having to repeatedly explain why they don't want to explain their own life to everyone. It's a type of exhaustion that few recognize as real, that rarely receives validation, because the suffering of those who post too much has a name, an article, a Netflix series. The suffering of those who don't want to post and are constantly questioned about it hasn't yet gained the same space. I often think about this. We talk a lot about the breakdown of those who got lost on social media, who became addicted to validation, who built such a rigid digital persona that they forgot who they were before. These are necessary and real conversations, but we rarely talk about the silent burden of those who simply don't want to be there and have to justify it every week, as if not posting were a flaw to be corrected, a symptom to be treated, a social inadequacy that demands explanation. It's not, and we need to stop treating it as if it were. There's a different, more honest way to look at all this, and it starts by recognizing that each person's relationship with visibility is as individual as their fingerprint. There's no right way to exist in the digital world. There's the way that makes sense for you, with your history, your temperament, your values, and there's the way that makes sense for someone else. These two ways can be completely different without either of them being wrong. The person who doesn't post isn't necessarily hiding anything. They are, often, protecting something. And there's an enormous, fundamental difference between these two words. Hiding is about shame, about something that cannot be seen. Protecting is about value, about something that doesn't need to be proven. They know what they feel. They know what they've lived.
They know who they are. And they simply don't believe they need a feed, a sequence of stories, a number of followers to make any of it more real or more legitimate than it already is. To me, there's something profoundly courageous about this behavior. In a time when everyone has learned to exist in constant performance, to document, to narrate, to display, those who decide not to perform are making a choice that goes completely against the current. Not because they posted about courage, not because they wrote a profound caption about authenticity, but because they simply lived, in silence, without needing anyone to validate it. And perhaps the question truly worth asking isn't, why doesn't this person post? Perhaps the question is another, more intimate, more uncomfortable one. What did I need to learn to do to feel valid? What did I need to show to believe I existed? The ghost of social media, sometimes, is the most present of all, just in a place the algorithm will never find. If you like this video, leave a like, and don't leave without subscribing to the channel. Activate the bell so you don't miss anything. See you in the next video.